Diamonds and Digits. Welcome to Math 9 in the PM. And we're going to do some review and stuff about square roots. Last week, we already reviewed this stuff. Find the square root, leave decimals as decimals, and fractions as fractions. You guys know if you have a decimal, use your calculator, right? If you have it as a fraction system, though, you could, but I want you to leave it as a fraction. So, the square root of the top, square root of the bottom. The following, we talked about this. Perfect or non-perfect. If you have a repeating decimal as an answer to a problem, then it is perfect. If you don't have a repeating decimal, and you have just a decimal that goes on forever without any pattern, it's not perfect. If you have a terminating decimal, so if it was 5.3 or just 5 or 7 or something like this as the answer, that's a perfect square. Now, I said we'd skip something because we'd come back to it. Using benchmarks to estimate, just a second here, and we'll take a look at the other problems that we want. Yeah. We're going to estimate using benchmarks, and then we're going to use some Pythagorean theorem. Okay. So today, let's pick it up a little bit with this. Here's what we're doing, y'all. Using number 3, benchmarks to estimate. Let's do this first one. Okay. So write down use benchmarks, because this is exactly the problem you're going to have. Write this one down, and we'll do it first. Okay. So pause. This doesn't take long. Just say use benchmarks. We're going to do it together. Have you done anything like this before? Okay. You want to just join in? You have paper? Sure. It's just like just jot this down and we'll work on it. Do you need paper? I got some right here. You betcha. If they're asked to do benchmarks and you got a fraction system, estimate the square root. What do we do? Do you remember? Well, we say this is about the same as, you look for the closest square to 18. Now, 18 is in between the two perfect squares, 16 and 25. Which one is it closer to? Which square is 18 closer to? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, tell me about the thing.
Now we have to copy down like this.
Oh yeah, the perfect square list.
Yeah, so this is like this 54 thing. So divide it 8 times 2 or whatever, the 8 squared or whatever.
8 squared, 64. Like yeah, it's the 64, the 81, the 100 that you have to have memorized. Okay. You have them both, but really it's the new numbers. Yeah. Okay. So the bottom 75. 75 is in between which two squares? Okay, so it's in between 64 and 81. Which one is it closer to, 64 or 81? 81. So it's closer to 9 squared, 81. So I'm going to write that down. And this is exactly what Jackson was asking about. You want the list of the perfect square answers in your head so that you can think this through quickly. Okay? Cola doesn't really help you. Put that away here. Thank you. Okay. So my writing's messy, but the root of 16, I can do that because you got these memorized. It's a 4, and the square root of 81 is a 9. That's the approximate value of 18 over 75 square root. Okay. That's how we do fractions. Now, the next question, I already have it started here. I didn't erase it from last year. But write down this question. Using benchmarks to estimate when it's not a fraction, we're going to use a number line system and show it like this. Okay. No need to talk, just come in, join us. Thank you, man. Okay, square root of 52. You can already see I've started it, so I didn't erase it. I think what squares is 52 in between? It's in between 49 and 64. And you place it on the number line where it's closer to, right? It's closer to 49 than it is to 64. So that's why I have this written there. And we know the square root of 49 is 7. We know the square root of 64 is 8. Now, you kind of are guessing, but what would be some good guesses for the square root of 52, knowing that it's in between 7 and 8? 7.2, 7.3, something like that. Closer to 49 than it is 64. So, and I don't care if it's the one your calculator gives you. You're going to reason it out from this and say, okay, yeah, it's 7.2. Based on my guesstimation, and you've got to show it with that number line. That's what you want to do when you're asked, and you will be asked 4 questions. Use the benchmarks and estimates. Okay? Mark it. Hey, come on in. Let's back again. Okay, done with the benchmarks? Yep. We reviewed this the other day. If I ask you the answer is 3, what was the square root of, basically? Calculate the number whose square root is 3. Well, you just square it. Say, oh, it was 9 under a root sign. You got to think like that. We talked about those. That was everything. So then, let's try some Pythagorean ones. And I'm letting you guys tell you what. Yeah, do A first. We won't do B yet. Okay. Don't worry about the little boxes. It's the black triangle. I am pretty good. It does. It does. But I am pretty good too. Like obvious. So guys, the first thing we need to do, all right, set the problem down. You got to decide what your A, B, and especially careful which one's your C. C is called the hypotenuse. It has to be one spot. There's the A and the B can be switched around, but the C can't. Which number or letter is the C in this formula? C squared equals A squared B squared. What's that? The H. It's called the hypotenuse. That's like our C. So this is why I have this. And then the A and the B don't matter. Whether you have the 3.7 is A or the 1.8 is. C doesn't. We're going to use this formula. So then we put our numbers in for it. Well, for the letter C squared, I'm going to use H squared. For A squared, I'm going to use the 1.8 and squared 3.7 squared. We make sure that everything was in centimeters. Yep, both of them are. And you guys are going to work away at this. Keep going. Good time to work. Try these out. You have a calculator? Well, no, you do an A right now. We'll do B after you work this one out. Okay? Don't get ahead of yourself. So you're working down. So your first thing is to put those things in, right? That's what I was saying. Put these numbers in. Start working things out. This is just arithmetic. All right. I'm going to wait for somebody to work this out. So we square everything. 3.24 plus 13.69. Then you actually add them up, right? Yep. 16.93. Then you take the square root of both sides. 4.1. Something about this board is skipping around all the time. Not cool. I'll just switch this pen to this one. I'll see if it's everything moves then. Somehow it keeps skipping. Okay. So we got to know how to use Pythagorean theorem when it's solving for the hypotenuse, and now when it's solving for one of the legs, the other side. So I'll give you guys a second. Jot this down. Right? Okay, come on in. While you're jotting that down, I'm going to just pause the video. Okay, I'm going to work it through, guys, because this has got a little bit different to them. Okay. I'm going to do something here, just so that it's a little easier to follow. Okay. On this one here, what is our C for that formula? The 104. It's across from the right angle. It's called the hypotenuse. I'm going to call X the letter A, and the B is the 4A. I'm going to put in my numbers then, right? 104 equals X squared plus 40 squared, right? Put them in. Hey, Elijah. It's on paper, man. Okay. Don't wait to. You're a young adult. Put it away. You're a wonderful person. Put it upside down so I'm not even distracted. You will have to. First, though, I know you know what you're doing, but I know you could do it. But okay, what's that? First, we're going to square them. Okay. So, squaring both the numbers and leaving the x as x squared. Oh yeah. Don't do these. Someone was kidding me about being able to instantly
Now I do. Now I do.
Yeah.
I couldn't do 140.
Okay.
104.
So once we have this, we want to use adding and subtracting to get the x squared part all by itself. Always do plus and minus solves. So this is where it gets tricky. Well, let's pay attention. You got up to this point, you're cool? Okay. I know you know. I know. Just hang on. So the idea is to get this thing with the letter all by itself, right? Hey. Back to this. Or was it a math question or a general question? Okay, back to this. To solve for the x squared part, we have to get that letter alone. And so if you're adding 1600, you think, okay, I've got to subtract 1600. I'm running out of space there. That means I also have to subtract 1600 from this side. Oh, I just did something accidentally. But anyways, you get the idea. I'm going to show this is why I'm showing why I'm showing here. So this is where I subtract the 1600s from both sides. And use this as a pattern to solve these ones, because we haven't done a lot of algebra yet. Question? Yeah. Yeah. Well, use your calculator. I wouldn't do this one in my head, because to do x squared, we do the square root of 9216, 9,216.
Oh, yeah,
96. Rule 96 here. You need a calculator for the square root. That's why I knew you couldn't do it that easily. Okay. You will have problems like that. Okay? And I need you to review these things. Today's questions. There it is. I'll show you one more thing. Yes, Terry. Yes, you can. Thank you for asking. That's great. Okay. I'm not gonna ask you guys to do 5 ABC because we've already done some like this. Listen to me though. Find the number whose square root is 6. Well, that's just the opposite. We've done this practice, right? So 6 times 6, it's 36 under the root sign. So pay attention, we have something. And then the other one, 2.3 times 2.3 is 5.29. Squaring the top, squaring the bottom. Those ones, right? We've done these already. So I'm not going to get you to practice, but I will get you to practice this. Stuff we've done last week. Find a number that has a square root between 6 and 7. Write this problem out because you're going to have a problem like this on the review. Today's review. Derek, I can get you some printed out if you remind me right after this, the notes for the sections. Yeah. Can it be a whole number? It can, yeah. The answer won't be. But we don't even need to work out the decimals. I'm just saying it has to fall in between them. So write down the problem. Find a number that has a square root between 6 and 7, and then we think, oh, wait for a second. It's still right. Okay. To set this up, you don't want the answer to it, but you want to find a number that has a square root in between 6 and 7. So I think, what's 6 squared? That's 36. What's 7 squared? 49. You got it, buddy. So look at this. You got a bunch of answers, and we were asked, does it have to be, it could be a decimal too, but between 36 and 49, I put in red. Any of those, you could just say root 38, root 41. I don't care. You don't have to write all these answers up. You could have said root 41.4. As long as it falls in between root 36 and root 49, those are all answers you could choose from, right? Because if you put any one of these red things into your calculator and hit the square root button, you're going to get a number that's 6 point something, right? That's in between 6 and 7. While you're doing that, I'm going to hand out today's review.